Welcome to my channel. Today we bring you a tale about a young woman who dared to defy the odds and became the hero of her village. So make yourself comfortable and let us begin. They say the bravest hearts are not born on battlefields, but in moments when fear claws at your throat and you stand your ground anyway. This is the story of a girl who dared to do what an entire kingdom feared. In the misty hills of Andalusia, Spain, long ago, there lived a poor shepherd girl whose courage knew no bounds. Her name was Isabel, which meant pledge or oath, a name given by her parents, hoping their daughter would grow up to keep her promises and fight for what she believed in. And she did. During those times, the people were ruled over by a cruel duke named Señor Vargas, a man who was rich, arrogant, and merciless, demanding gold from the peasants who barely had enough bread to eat. He treated his people like ants, easily crushed underfoot. Among his many victims was a young shepherd girl named Isabel, whose courage outshone her fragile frame. One evening, the peace of the village was shattered by the arrival of the Duke's heavily armed guards. They stormed into the homes of the unsuspecting villagers, taking away whatever little food they had managed to save. When they arrived at Isabel's house, they found only an empty hearth and a note left by her mother. "Gone to the hills, God damn the Duke," it read. Isabel wasn't home, but the guards didn't care. They trashed the house, took the little sheepskin coat off her bed and tossed it to the ground before leaving. As darkness fell, casting long shadows across the village, Isabel returned home. Her heart sank as she saw the state of her house and realized her mother had fled, most likely to hide in the hills. Filled with anger and desperation, she shouted at the top of her lungs, "Enough! You take and take, but you cannot take our dignity!" Her words echoed through the silent village, a tiny spark of defiance against the oppressive darkness. The guards, who had just left, turned back. They burst into her house and sneered at her. "What did you say, little girl? Say it again so the others can hear." The girl stood firm, clutching her wooden staff like a sword. She declared, "I said you have taken enough. You have made us suffer enough. We are human beings, not animals to be tossed around at your whim." The guards burst out laughing. "A shepherd girl with fire? How cute. But also very convenient. We'll enjoy breaking that spirit." One guard stepped forward, grabbing her by the hair and dragging her outside. "Come on, little lamb. It's time for you to learn who really rules these lands." The rest of the guards followed closely behind, eager to witness the upcoming spectacle. But Isabel did not run. Instead, she straightened her shoulders, though her legs trembled beneath her, and prepared to face whatever came next. She knew her mother was gone, and the thought of her facing the Duke alone filled her with determination. That night, under the cloak of darkness, Isabel embarked on a journey to confront the Duke and seek justice for her people. She crept through the shadows, making her way to the imposing gates of the Duke's mansion, determined to bring him to justice. Inside the mansion, hushed voices spoke of an ancient ruby said to control the hearts of men, known as the Bloodstone of Granada. Legends whispered that the stone gave its wearer immense power over others, but also corrupted their souls. It was hidden somewhere in the palace, concealed from prying eyes. As Isabel ventured deeper into the mansion, she noticed a flickering candlelight emanating from a room at the end of the hallway. With cautious steps, she approached the room, her heart pounding in her chest. Peeking through the keyhole, she saw inside a man who appeared to be the Duke. His back was towards the door, and in his hand he clutched a ruby that glowed with an eerie red light. As if sensing her presence, the Duke turned around, revealing a smirk on his face. With a start, Isabel stumbled back, realizing that she had been discovered. But the Duke's smirk widened, and he spoke in a mocking tone. "So we have a little mouse caught in my trap. Come in, child. I've been expecting you." Despite her fear, Isabel stepped into the room, her eyes fixed on the ruby in the Duke's hand. She couldn't help but feel drawn to its mesmerizing glow. The Duke noticed her gaze and chuckled. Ah, you want to know the secret of my power? It's this, the Bloodstone of Granada. It gives me control over the hearts of men, and soon it will give you unimaginable power. He held out the ruby for her to see, and for a moment, she felt tempted to take it. As the Duke leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, he continued, "Imagine the strength we could have together, the havoc we could wreak upon the kingdom. You would be my queen, child, and together we would rule like gods." Isabel stared at the ruby, its allure almost too much to resist. The promise of power and the chance to punish those who had wronged her people tempted her greatly. However, despite the allure of the ruby, Isabel knew that accepting it would corrupt her soul. She remembered her village, the faces of her friends and neighbors, and realized that true strength lay in protecting them, not in joining the Duke's darkness. With a newfound determination, Isabel shook off the Duke's offer. She stood tall, meeting his gaze directly. "No, Duke, I may be just a shepherd girl, but I know that true power comes not from controlling others, but from the courage to stand up for what's right." Her words echoed in the room, filled with conviction and defiance. Enraged by her refusal, the Duke's face twisted with fury. The ruby in his hand pulsed with a menacing red light, reflecting the turmoil in his heart. "So be it, little girl," he snarled. "You have chosen your fate, but know this, I will crush you and your village. Your defiance will be your undoing." With that, he lunged at her, his eyes blazing with hatred. The sight of the approaching Duke fueled her determination. She stood her ground, her small frame trembling slightly, yet her spirit unbroken. In that moment, she realized that her safety and the fate of her village rested solely on her shoulders. There was no one else to rely on. As the Duke drew closer, she swung her staff, connecting with a solid thud against his shoulder. Surprised by her sudden attack, the Duke staggered back, clutching his wounded arm. But the momentary distraction was all that Isabel needed. In that split second, she darted past him, snatching the ruby from his hand. The ruby slipped through her fingers, crashing to the floor and shattering into a million pieces. A thick black smoke erupted from the fragments, swirling and coalescing into a horrifying visage. It was the Duke's dark self, his deepest fears and regrets given form. The Duke recoiled in horror, his face drained of color. "No, it can't be," he stammered, his voice filled with dread. "Destroy it, child, before it's too late." But Isabel stood firm, her gaze unwavering. She knew that destroying the ruby was the only way to break the curse and free the Duke from his self-imposed prison. With a deep breath, she raised the fragments of the ruby high above her head and shouted, "Begone, creature of darkness, and take the Duke's sins with you." As the last shard hit the ground, the dark figure let out a deafening roar, thrashing and contorting in pain. Then, with a final burst of energy, it vanished, taking the Duke's fears and regrets with it. The Duke collapsed, his body racked with sobs. His dark form dissipated, revealing not a monster, but a broken, tormented man. From that night, the people of Andalusia sang her name as Isabel the Brave, the shepherd girl who broke a tyrant with nothing but her heart. And so ends the tale of Isabel, the shepherd girl who defied a duke. For sometimes the greatest battles are not fought with swords and shields, but with courage and conviction. Remember, dear listeners, that true strength lies not in power or riches, but in the bravery to stand up for what's right. The tale of Isabel reminds us that each of us has the potential for greatness within. All it takes is a spark of courage to ignite that flame and change the world. Until next time, keep believing in the power of your own story.